Welcome to this week's Brittany's Bites, where we are digging into the fall flavors. We're talking apple and pumpkin. And Cassie and I were having a conversation recently, and the question was, which is your favorite? Do you choose apple? Do you choose pumpkin? The good news is today, you don't have to choose. We are combining both flavors into this recipe. We are making apple pumpkin cinnamon rolls. Oh yes, they are heavenly and decadent, that is for sure. This could make a great weekend breakfast or brunch. So let's get started. Now, you could use apple pie filling, buy it at the store pre-made. I'm saving myself some time with the pre-made cinnamon rolls, but I have some apples, so I'm going to chop these up. And that's what I'm gonna do first to get them sort of cooking up in some butter, brown sugar, and cinnamon. So give me just a few minutes to dice these up. You could leave the peels on if you want. I like to take them off, so this will take a few minutes. The apples are all finally chopped up and diced nice and small so that they're kind of in bite-sized pieces. So I've just turned on the heat here. I've got 2 tablespoons of butter that will melt into all of this ooey gooey goodness with the apples. So we're gonna put these in here, got all the apples in, and then we're gonna add a few things. We are gonna add some brown sugar. Let me get this open. Ugh, the seal is really good. I'm gonna say about a 1/4 cup. Yeah, I made up this recipe and didn't really think about the measurements, so sorry about that. That's about a 1/4 cup. I might add some more depending upon how saucy I want to make it, but we'll start with that. Got 1 stray apple here. And then we're gonna put in some cinnamon. I'm gonna say about a teaspoon when I'm eyeballing it here. Great. And then just a little hint of salt. That's it, just a little dash. So while that is all coming together and getting melted down, make sure you have that up high enough. Great. We're gonna move on to the cinnamon rolls. So I have just, I think this is a 9x9, maybe an 8x8 pan, because you want the cinnamon rolls to kind of be touching. They're gonna rise, not spread, so you can kind of cram them in there. I should have probably tried to open this off camera, because I can never get these open right, and then they always pop and scare me. All right, I'm gonna see if I can do it by peeling where they say to peel, and then woo! Okay, good, that wasn't so bad. All right, so we're gonna save the icing for later, and we're gonna jazz that up too. But I'm just gonna start by putting these in the pan here. I think they come with 8. Ooh, I'm losing my icing. Definitely don't wanna do that. Okay. These will fit in very nicely. And then, yeah, you could go from here and just put these in the oven like you normally would. But again, we are jazzing up this recipe. So let me get these last 2 out. And then I'll show you what we're gonna do next. Those are in there. I'm gonna set this aside for just a minute and then grab this again. Now we're talking about the heavy cream. This will sort of ooze into and bake into the cinnamon rolls in the oven and just make them so decadent. So we're gonna start with, I think, a 1/4 cup of heavy cream. Put that in there. And then about the same amount of pureed pumpkin. So I'm gonna get my spoon and just kind of eyeball this. You want it to be almost equal parts. You could go a little more or less with each one depending. And it's gonna turn nice and orange and pumpkin-y. And then I'm gonna add to this pumpkin pie spice. And I'm gonna say about a teaspoon or so. There we go. Make this all come together. And then what we're gonna do is pour this all over. You basically want it to coat the bottom because it'll bake into it that way. We're gonna put the apple mixture on top. So I'm going to pour this in between basically and all around, and you can get it on the top of them, that's fine. But I wanna make sure I have enough to cover everything. Oh, I'm getting it everywhere. That is looking pretty good. Let me scoop this out. Okay, great. I'm gonna spread this around a little bit more. I may add a little bit more here, but in the meantime, I'm gonna wait for these apples to cook down, and then we'll come back and put it all together before we put it in the oven. And by the way, the oven is preheating right now to 400 degrees. The apples are getting nice and cooked and the flavors are coming together. I normally would probably let it thicken up just a little bit more, but for our purposes, we're gonna move on. And you can see it's very hot, it's still boiling. So I'm now going to scoop these over the top. And you can put on as much or as little as you want. This these apples could be a nice sweet treat, aside from putting them on these cinnamon rolls. And then we're gonna cover this with foil and pop it in the oven. And then we're gonna jazz up, as I mentioned before, the icing that goes on top as well. Now, if you wanted to cut out a step, you could just use the icing that comes in the package, no problem. But I love apples, so I'm gonna try to put on as many as I can. And then of course, scoop on some of this nice brown sugar, cinnamony goodness. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm going to now put some foil on this and pop it in the oven and bake it for about 35 to 40 minutes. The cinnamon rolls are now out of the oven and it smells fantastic in here. You can see the apples have cooked into the cinnamon rolls and they've puffed up because they baked with that pumpkin heavy cream goodness. And so now we're on to the final step. We're gonna make a little topping. So I just took the store-bought cinnamon roll icing and put it in here to get us started. And there you see it. You could just leave it like this and drizzle it over, but we're gonna add a few things to it. So first I'm gonna add some powdered sugar. Just about a spoonful or so. And of course I have to spill it everywhere. And then I'm gonna up the cream cheese factor with a scoop of whipped cream cheese, if I can get it in there. That's pretty good. Then I'm gonna add a little dash of vanilla. Probably, maybe about a teaspoon. And then, you know, we did the cinnamon, we did the pumpkin pie spice. Why not add some apple pie spice? There we go. And then I have some milk here just to thin it out if I want to do that. So I'm gonna try to smooth this all together and get it going, and then we will drizzle it on top. Okay, I think I have it where I want it, and it's still warm, so it's gonna really melt in there. So now you'll just drizzle it over the top. And doesn't that look fantastic? Have as much or as little as you want. And this could then make a great weekend morning meal. But again, it's decadent, so be careful. If you like this recipe, you can go online right now to WBIR.com.